said, hey, are y'all ends gonna talk about this railroad strike or what? And so I want us to include that. I'm sorry, were y'all going in a different direction?
No, that's fine. I'll pull it up as we speak.
Let's do it.
Muchas gracias. Now, this is from reporting via More Perfect Union. I have to say, I have not seen this clip, but I trust More Perfect Union's reporting because they do a stellar job of reporting on labor and organizing. So, I have faith that this will be accurate.
Okay, so I'll start it. It says, update railroad workers tell us they're prepared to launch a nationwide strike next week. The rank and file seem to be near unanimous agreement of a strike, and railroads have pushed workers to the brink with 24 hours, 7 days a week, on-call schedules, and 0 days off. So let's look at
of a railroad strike across the industry. It would be like asking what would be the results if a nuclear bomb went off in New York. Obviously, it would be utter chaos and catastrophe. It seems intentional, like the railroad industry is intentionally trying to create an oppressive work environment so that they can reach their end goal and be able to give more money back to Wall Street.
These workers have worked now for the last 3 years throughout a pandemic, putting themselves and their families at risk without a raise. They have not received any pay increase during that time. At the same time, they've seen their numbers dwindle dramatically. They've also seen the highest profits in the history of railroading over that same stretch of time.
They want more with less, and that comes down to people, resources, locomotives, maintenance, everything.
Railroads have laid off 45,000 people in the past 5 years. That means that they are completely incapable of meeting the demand that is placed on our economy.
Just on duty time, you are very commonly working 80 plus hours a week. That does not include the time that you're sitting at the away from home terminal. I mean, you might be away from home, subject to the railroad, not with your family, for 120 hours in a week.
So I'll stop it there. For us to continue on, I could always, of course, go back to it and keep it playing or whatever. But if folks have been reading the news, the only thing I'll add is obviously this impacts Amtrak, cargo, and it seems like in spite of what they said about the board being appointed, it's not like Biden or the Democratic administration is stepping in to put pressure on the railroad industry to give increases, to settle this before it results in a strike. Again, a strike which they have a right to do in terms of what's happening in terms of their industry. And so the Biden administration has not stepped forward and done something in support of the workers and putting pressure on the industry, which again is leaving them with no friends in high places and the feeling of the only action that they can take, which they should take, is to strike to put pressure on the rest of the country and the people to understand the importance of these workers in their day-to-day lives.
The other part about so the ways in which, more left-leaning media cover this versus the way that mainstream media are covering this, in the reporting that I've seen on regular TV, they never talk about the work schedule that these workers are subjected to, 24/7 on call with no days off, no pay increases, and dealing with the after effects of 45,000 people being laid off in the industry over the past 5 years. Like, that is never brought up. And I feel as though that is an attempt to frame the workers and specifically the union as the enemies, like they are the problem here. If railroad service gets shut down nationwide, it's going to be because of the fault of the workers, of that goddamn greedy union. The mainstream media does not frame the conditions in which these workers are subjected to, nor do they talk about the amount of profits that those who own these railroad companies, the amount of profits that they made. And one of them is Warren Buffett, richest fucker out here, right? Making money hand over fist. How come he can't give his workers a raise? How come he's putting them on 24/7 on-call schedules? 80 hours a week, guys. Can you imagine an 80-hour-a-week work schedule. And I live in proximity to the railroad, and every time I see a train derailment here, there, wherever, that always comes to my mind. I'm like, yo, if a train were to derail in my backyard, it would be a big problem. And I don't like the fact that these workers are sometimes working 12, 14, 16, 18-hour shifts whilst on these public railways, basically creating a public safety issue potentially. So it's going to be real interesting, because I feel as though the railroad workers, the truckers, the people that help to keep commerce moving in this country, in addition to the nurses and everybody else, but really the commerce providers are keeping America afloat. And if one of those apparatuses shut down for whatever reason, this country is going to be brought to its knees. And I know the railroad workers know that, and I know that most Americans do not know that, but they are already readying their fingers to point at the unions, at the workers, should this strike take place.
I mean, Kim, you're exactly right in terms of how the unions and labor is reported in mainstream press. That's a historical, just reality and permanent reality. And it's amazing because I think nationally, the workforce is only like 12 or 13% unionized at this point, right? Right. Late unions are at a record low at this point in this country. So it's amazing that such a relatively small percentage of unionized workers can have such a negative impact on so much of the economy and do so much to hold up the proper functioning of U.S. business. So that's crazy. And I all solidarity to them, all respect to them.
Quickly, like the thing that you brought up, Kim, was that folks don't even understand the importance of how their products get to the shelves. The railroad understands it, and obviously those in charge understand it, but everyday people do not understand the importance of how their goods go to different places and travel. And even, our travel, again, through Amtrak or other ways. So this is going to have a huge impact. And then, for them to note within that story is that during the pandemic, just the way Amazon made crazy dollars, their profits went up because people relied on it. These railroad companies made a huge amount of money, increase in revenue. That meant more salaries, more stock bonuses, more payouts to corporate executives. But during all that time and currently, no raises whatsoever, no improvement in job conditions. So these folks have been struggling and trying to get a new contract for several years now. And like any smart worker is like, enough is enough. You can only sit at the negotiation table so long before it becomes understood that they're just keeping you at the negotiating table. They have no interest in settling it whatsoever. They're hoping you continue to work without a contract. They got their own media and propaganda game out there doing exactly what you said, telling folks this is all going to be the workers' fault. If you don't have your supplies on the shelves and you can't find what you want in your supermarket, it's all because of the workers. It's not because of how we've structured this business. It's not because we don't pay them enough. It's not because we're so greedy that we won't even think about redistributing resources. Don't look this way, look that way. And I think they got that all planned out.
Can I ask y'all for some historical context? And that's not like a subtle way of me trying to call y'all old. I just have a feeling
It
y'all
wasn't subtle, sis.
Can y'all give us some historical context on when Reagan fired or attempted to fire the air traffic controllers? I feel like this may be like a similar dynamic because I have a feeling that Joe Biden.
I'm sorry, I was thinking the same thing. I was saying, funny you said that. Yeah.
Because I'm thinking that Joe Biden might step in and try to tell these unionized railroad workers, y'all are barred from striking. Like I feel as though Biden might do some fuck shit, to operate on behalf of the capital class to make sure that the workers literally have no rights to withhold their labor. But am I off by thinking about these two situations similarly? Can you get
first of all, Reagan, who died during my wedding,
which wife
had a. Huh? What did you say?
Which wife? The one I showed? I'm just
look again. It's not going to be me, Kamal. You don't have to worry about me.
My bad. My bad.
Keep going.
I want to be invited to the household, so my bad. That was the only.
I have a feeling.
Oh,
I
you're
have a
going to
feeling
get invited.
Kamal's wife is going to let Jared's wife fight him. She'd be like, "Hey, I told him stop running off at the mouth."
So
yes.
But Reagan had a long career of this before politics even. After his failure as an actor, Hollywood rebranded him as one who would be put on records and do promos attacking socialism and communism and ideas like universal health care. So by the time he went through and the Panthers and all this other stuff, by the time he gets to the presidency, and these fools, these pilots who are basically saying the same thing that these railroad workers are saying: we fly too much, we work too hard, we don't get paid right, you increase the cost of tickets, we don't get paid more, da 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 da. Reagan comes in and says, no, you are all fired. He broke the union. You're fired. So that does set a precedent, and that is one of the reasons why we have such a low enrollment in unions to this day. So yeah, it does set a precedent for Biden to come in and say, yeah, you can go on strike if you want, and we'll just replace you. That's it. And that's it.
Which in this case might be hard. Like, again, if my recollection, I was 13, so it was not a clear recollection, but it felt as if they had army or military staff, or they had other folks who stepped in after a while to restart that. Now, whether or not they have the numbers of engineers and other workers to step in right away so that the pain is not felt, I think is the big question. It's like whether or not that pain will be felt by the consumers, by everyday people, again, who don't know exactly how their goods get to the shelves. Because if they do go out on strike and that pain is felt, it's Biden who's going to feel that pain in terms of midterms and or elections, presidentially speaking. So it would, if they weren't so trapped purposely or wantingly, not necessarily some trap that they're trying to get out of, by the power of the capitalist class or the business class, they would look at their own sort of political life and say, I can't let this strike happen, right? I need to do everything I can, not just these like little boards or whatever, but to step in and make capital give concessions that are fair to workers. But because they're so captured, they won't even do that in a reasonable way, in a reasonable time period that didn't need to get us to this point where we are now counting down days or hours to when a strike can happen that's going to impact everybody.